Chapter 2. What is meditation? One day a man of the people said to Zen Master Ikkyu, "Master, will you please write for me some maxims of the highest wisdom?" Ikkyu immediately took his brush and wrote the word attention. "Is that all?" asked the man. "Will you not add something more?" Ikkyu then wrote twice running, "Attention, attention." "Well," remarked the man rather irritably, "I really don't see much depth or subtlety in what you have just written." Then Ikkyu wrote the same word 3 times running, "Attention, attention, attention." Half angered, the man demanded, "What does that word attention mean, anyway?" And Ikkyu answered gently, "Attention means attention." There are essentially 2 types of meditation: practice, fixed, and discursive. Fixed meditation aims at focusing the attention on a specific object, either internal or external. The object can be an image or a statue, a part of the body or a bodily sensation, a feeling or an emotion, a word or a phrase, a tone or a chant, a statement or a question, silence or emptiness. Discursive meditation focuses the attention on a sequence of events. For example, reliving in one's imagination or through pictures the Passion of Christ, practicing some form of guided fantasy or Jung's technique of active imagination, observing the passing sensations, feelings, thoughts, and images in oneself, participating mindfully in a ritual, a dance, or some other activity, such as working or walking. There are also mixed forms of meditation, which begin by focusing the attention on a given object, allow the object to evolve or move, and then follow its evolution or movement, or the meditation may begin in a discursive way and periodically or finally fix the attention on a specific object. The common element in all of these forms of meditation is the focusing of attention. What is attention? From the psychological point of view, attention consists of the psychic energy that the ego is able to direct to an object, or that an object is able to attract to itself. Consciousness is not attention. Consciousness is the psychic field in which objects manifest. Consciousness, too, requires psychic energy if it is to provide for the possibility of the awareness of objects. A common analogy is with light. Consciousness is the light in which objects become visible. Normally, our attention wanders from object to object. The cause of this wandering is determined by our physical, emotional, and social needs and interests, by our temperament, our inherent likes and dislikes, and by our complexes. Since both the inner and the outer worlds are constantly changing, our attention too keeps flitting about with the changing kaleidoscope of the objects presented to it. Meditation is a deliberate attempt to arrest and direct this constantly shifting flow of objects that vie for our attention. The first aphorism of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras states, "Yoga consists of the intentional stopping of the spontaneous activity of the mind stuff." The focusing of attention can be accomplished in 2 ways. One can reduce the outer and inner images that enter the field of consciousness, or one can select a specific object or category of objects to which one will pay attention. Meditation, then, is a deliberate and conscious attempt to focus the attention. By contrast, it is also possible for attention to become focused in a spontaneous or compulsive way. Plato reports that sometimes, and at the most unpredictable moments, Socrates would fall into a spontaneous trance. And everyone is familiar with the power of obsessive compulsive emotions, ideas, or behavior which resist the efforts of reason, ego, and will to alter or free the attention directed to them. The voluntary and conscious focusing of attention is a neutral psychological ability that can be applied to various ends: work, study, art, prayer, and sport, for example, all require the conscious application of attention. What distinguishes meditation from these other forms of voluntary focused attention is the ends that it has in view. Characteristically, these ends include awareness of one's mental and emotional states and of psychological states in the case of practices such as Hatha Yoga, mastery over one's instinctive, unconscious, and compulsive reactions, learning to live with full consciousness in every moment, insight into one's nature and into the nature of reality, exploration of religious themes, images, or feelings, and expansions of ego consciousness from an ego-centered to a universal or cosmic form of consciousness. Because religions are interested in these goals and their effects, meditation is usually associated with religious practice. Outside the religious contexts, meditation can be used simply as a method of relaxation or of enhancing physical and psychic well-being. In psychotherapy, meditation is sometimes used as a therapeutic aid in exploring and altering a person's psychic reactions and structure. Concentration. What exactly happens when one begins to meditate? The first observable effect is improved concentration. The ability to focus the attention on a specific object or task for an extended period of time. Given the natural tendency for attention to wander, the ability to concentrate is no mean accomplishment. Concentration, the ability to hold the attention steady, is the basic tool of every meditation practice. A corollary effect of concentration is the suppression or dismissal of stimuli competing for our attention. Concentration, therefore, gives the ego control over attention, over free-flowing psychic energy, and permits the ego to choose which inner or outer objects will become the focus of attention. The ability to concentrate, to freely focus one's attention, is already a form of liberation. It means that we are able to free up a certain amount of psychic energy from the psychic and physical functions to which it is normally attached, and place that energy at the disposal of the ego and of its self-reflective and choosing capacities. It means that at least a part of our psychic energy is no longer captured or held captive by the various and often arbitrary impulses and impressions that usually attract psychic energy to themselves. The next effect of meditation is that the more one is able to concentrate, the more psychic energy is released. Concentration can be likened to a water wheel, but one that grows bigger and more powerful with each turn, while at the same time the water rushing to meet it increases in volume and force. In practice, of course, this is not an ever-increasing phenomenon, because the strength of one's concentration is always waxing and waning. There are times, however, when the process of concentration seems to be taken over by the autonomic nervous system so that little conscious effort is required. At that point, a certain depersonalization takes place. The ego feels separate from the entire process and can observe it as if it were happening to another person. After long periods of meditation, the concentration continues subliminally and of its own accord, even after one has stopped meditating. A woman who had been working on the Koan Mu at a Zen meditation retreat found that after several days her mind was concentrating on the Koan even while she was asleep. Clinically, one would refer to this state of mind as an obsessional neurosis or an ID fix. In Jungian terms, this is a deliberate attempt to create a complex, a cluster of feeling-toned energy that functions autonomously and more or less independently of the central control of consciousness. Jung even speaks of the complex as a small secondary mind, and in case of a strong complex he notes that it possesses all the characteristics of a separate personality, with its own intentions and will. In many meditation practices, a deliberate effort is made to submerge the ego within the artificially created complex. Psychologically, this approximates a state of possession. The American Zen master Philip Kapleau, for example, describes the work on the Koan Mu as follows: threw myself into Mu for another 9 hours, with such utter absorption that I completely vanished. I didn't eat breakfast, Mu did. I didn't sweep and wash the floors after breakfast, Mu did. I didn't eat lunch, Mu ate. Once or twice, ideas of Satori started to reach their heads, but Mu promptly chopped them off. From an energetic point of view, the emergence of artificially created autonomous complex is an important development because it means that a portion of one's psychic energy is now permanently caught up in the process of meditation. This energy no longer leaks or reverts to its natural dispersal among inner and outer stimuli. A part of the psyche has been closed off, and an alchemical container for the production of philosopher's gold is established. The Book of Consciousness and Life, Hui Ming Ching, states, if thou wouldst complete the diamond body with no outflowing, diligently heed the roots of consciousness and life, kindle light in the blessed country ever close at hand, and there hidden let thy true self always dwell. The secret of the golden flower likens this state to a brooding hen who, even while she may stand up and move about, is ever concentrated on her task. The hen can hatch her eggs because her heart is always listening. For the ancient Chinese, the seat of consciousness was felt to be in the region of the heart and not in the head, as it is with us. The book also describes the process of concentration as the circulation of the light and maintaining of the center. It states that the work on the circulation of the light depends entirely on the backward flowing movement, i.e., on introversion, so that the thoughts are gathered together. It links this work with careful attention to the rhythm of breathing. Indian yoga, which influenced this Taoist work, also posits a connection between breathing and the storing up and directing the flow of prana, of psychic energy. From a purely organic perspective, deep inhalations increase the supply of oxygen in the blood and provide the body with more energy. In meditation, this energy is put at the disposal of the psyche and thrown into the effort of concentration. It was the secret of the golden flower that inspired Jung to undertake a study of the Western alchemy. The book was sent to him in 1928 by Richard Wilhelm and synchronistically confirmed Jung's own discovery of the self, the archetype of orientation and meaning. The alchemical aspect of the book is clearly seen in the definition of the golden flower as the elixir of life, Chintan, literally golden ball, golden pill. The goal of the Western alchemy is similarly the production of the elixir vitae, also defined as the philosophical gold or golden glass. In the Chinese text, however, you can see here the 16th century illustration. The 16th century alchemical illustration of Saturn or Mercurius senex being cooked in the bath until the spirit of white dove ascends. The outset that this goal is spiritual and not material. The opening paragraphs clearly state, the golden flower is the light. One used the golden flower as a symbol. It is the true energy of the transcendent Great One. The transcendent Great One is the same as the Tao, that which exists through itself, the one essence, the one primal spirit that cannot be seen or named. I shall examine these themes in more detail in chapter 5. Another effect of concentration, particularly of fixed concentration, is that the awareness of both and the outer and the inner environment is held in suspension. This is a paradoxical state of mind. One can at any moment register a stimulus, but this capacity is held in suspension so that only empty awareness of or awareness of awareness remains. Saint John of the Cross writes, of all these forms and manners of knowledge, the soul must strip and void itself, and it must strive to lose the imaginary apprehension of them, so that there may be left in it no kind of impression of knowledge, nor trace of aught soever, but rather the soul must remain barren and bare, as if these forms had never passed through it, and in total oblivion and in suspension. This state of suspension is accomplished either by the conscious refusal to entertain any stimulus, as in the Shikantaza practice of Zodo Zen, or by fixed concentration. Psychological studies have shown that the continuous repetition of the same stimulus is the same as no stimulus at all. A constantly present stimulus stops being registered by the mind. For example, if an image is made to remain constantly on the retina, the image disappears. Similarly, if an observer is faced with a Ganzfeld, such as a patternless and consistent field of vision, a green wall, say, or a halved ping pong balls taped over the eyes, after about 20 minutes, the observer reports an experience of not seeing. It is not only a matter of seeing nothing, but the feeling that one does not see at all. The observer cannot tell if his or her eyes are closed or open and cannot even control the eye movements. In both cases of the constant image on the retina and exposure to a Ganzfeld, these blanked out states of mind are correlated with an increased alpha rhythm activity. Electrophysiological studies of meditation have repeatedly shown that meditation is a high alpha state. After some proficiency in meditation, most people report that upon their return to ordinary reality, the world looks new, brighter, cleaner, more vivid and alive. William Blake probably referred to this phenomenon when he wrote in The Marriage of Heaven and Hell. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. This renewal or rebirth of the world is really a renewal or rebirth of the psyche. The feeling is as if one had just woken up after a good night's rest to a beautiful, sunny, crisp, clear day.